What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 10th Doctor David Tennant story, The Lazarus Experiment. We are about halfway through Series 3 at this point, and up to probably what is regarded as maybe the worst episode of the series, maybe the second worst. A lot of people also really don't like 42, which is the next episode after this one. But, sorry, my dog barking just there. Yeah, this is regarded as one of the weaker episodes, if not the weakest of Series 3. But let's get started, as we always do, with the cast. David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. Yep, he's good in this one. I'm not going to say this is an absolutely outstanding... I mean, it's a great performance from David Tennant, as it always is. But there's not the most going on with our main characters in this story, so there's not really a whole lot I can say, just that he does a good job. Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones, same goes for her really. She's good in this one, but there just isn't a whole lot of standout moments. We get to see a lot more stuff with her and her family. Of course, her sister Tish, a big part of the story. Her mum is also here as well, and her brother Leo. So we get to see the family a bit more from when we last saw them properly in Smith and Jones. But yeah, other than that, not a whole lot going on with our main characters here. Right, so on to some points about this episode. Professor Lazarus has a machine to make people younger. So the premise of this story is that Professor Lazarus, professor, I guess, has made this machine to make people young again so they can live longer and potentially live forever. So he's an old man and he's going to do the test on himself and make himself younger before eventually, making this available to the public and, making people live forever, potentially. The machine malfunctioned, so while Lazarus is doing his experiment, he's in the machine, it's all whizzing around, things start going wrong, the doctor ends up running over to try and stop the machine, alarms are going off, then Lazarus though steps out of the machine and seems perfectly fine. He is young, he looks completely different. We've got Mark Gatiss, I think is how you pronounce it, playing Lazarus here in, I believe, his first appearance in Doctor Who. Of course, written for Doctor Who before, will write for Doctor Who more, and also appears in Doctor Who a couple more times after this as well. But I believe this is his first actual appearance. Forgive me if I'm incorrect there. But he's fine enough and steps out of the machine. Looks perfectly normal, even though clearly it's not. Lazarus's DNA is changing him into a monster. So we find out what happened with the machine. It malfunctioned. It kind of spliced his DNA. And the weird thing here, and this is a thing I can never really understand and kind of baffles me, is that although Lazarus looks like a monster, at this point we've only really seen him change into the Lazarus monster and kill his wife. But we don't get a good look of him. We just kind of see like the tail kind of spine sort of thing, the stinger sort of looking thing at this point. But yeah, the doctor ends up explaining later that he's still human. He is still completely human, despite what he looks like. He's still completely human. It is basically old genes within humans that have kind of spliced together, messed up because of this malfunction, and turned him into a monster. So although he looks absolutely ridiculous and like a giant horrible monster, he's actually still technically human, which on one hand I quite like, but on the other hand I'm like, what sort of past evolution that didn't catch on is this for humans? It seems a little bit far-fetched. The Lazarus monster looks awful. So here's probably the biggest issue with this episode, and that is the monster itself. The CGI here, it is possibly the worst CGI in the new series. Maybe. I mean, there's quite a bit of bad CGI in Doctor Who, even in the new series. But this one, I think, has just aged really, really bad. Mark Gatiss's face on the front of this thing looks ridiculous. When it talks, it looks really ridiculous. And just the whole thing, it looks quite disgusting, which is what they're going for, I guess, and that is effective. But I don't know, I think it's mainly the face on the front, which I just really don't like this monster. It's silly, and it just looks bad. The Doctor blew up the lab, but it didn't kill Lazarus. So when the Doctor's trying to get rid of Lazarus, he goes into the science lab, turns all these like Bunsen burner sort of things on, and then somehow explodes the lab. It's a very cool scene, a very actiony scene. It doesn't end up killing Lazarus in the end, so it didn't really do anything, just kind of bought the Doctor a little bit of time, I guess. It was just kind of one of those things where it's a nice, cool little scene. I liked it when the Doctor and Lazarus are talking, when the Doctor's hiding from him under the desks, and is turning on all the Bunsen burners. That's quite a nice scene, probably one of my favorite of this episode. But yeah, nice little action scene and big explosion at the end. The Doctor and Martha trapped in the machine, so trying to get away from Lazarus, they run into the machine and trap themselves inside, and then they're like, what are we going to do now? I love that little moment when, the Doctor's like, all right, the plan was to get into here to hide. I haven't thought of the rest of the plan. I've got to think about that right now. That's a funny little moment there. And Martha's like, oh, great. You've just trapped us in this machine. And then, of course, Lazarus goes on and turns the machine on. Thankfully, they managed to get out of there without any issues, with a little bit of, convenience. The Doctor using his sonic screwdriver on the machine to kind of do this pulse thing. That just seems like really convenient and a bit of a cop-out, I will be honest. But it's cool having them stuck in the machine for a bit. The Doctor talking about living too long. Now, this may be my favourite part of the episode, actually. This one does have a few good parts in it. It's when Lazarus is naked at the bottom of the tower, because I believe this is after he blasts Lazarus away at the machine. They think he's dead, but then it turns out he's not dead. He goes into the church that he was talking about earlier on, how he was there in the war. And he's there completely naked, but with like a towel on, and sitting on the floor, and the Doctor's kind of just walking slowly around him, talking to him about living too long. I love that, because I love the Doctor talking about living too long, all the things he's got to go through, all the people he sees die because of how long he lives. And he has that discussion with Lazarus, and I do really like that moment. Finally, the Doctor using the sound waves from the organ to kill Lazarus. This is the final way that they defeat Lazarus. They are in the church. He gets up to the bell. Well, Martha and Tish get up to the bell tower to kind of chase Lazarus up there. The Doctor gets on the organ and basically blasts Lazarus off the top of the tower and kills him on the floor. It's a pretty cool scene, I guess. A little bit risky by the Doctor to just be like, hey, Martha, you want to just run up there and let him chase you, hoping that, he's not going to catch them. Very, very risky stuff, I will say. And I mean, Martha literally almost falls to her death. So that was a close one. But it's a nice little end, I guess. So that is my review for the Lazarus Experiment. A rating out of 10. I'm actually going to change it on the fly to a 5 out of 10. I did have it written down as a 6 out of 10, but I think actually I don't have a lot of notes here. There's a few good moments, but on the whole, I don't love the monster. It looks really, really horrible. The CGI is terrible, and ultimately there's just not as much going on here as I would like. The fact that they kind of killed Lazarus and then somewhat brought him back, to me feels like, oh, we need a bit more runtime here. Let's just have this extra scene at the end. So I don't know if there's really enough going on here to pad out the whole thing. And yeah, a 5 out of 10, right slap bang down the middle, is what I'm going to give the Lazarus Experiment. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.